Good evening, folks, and welcome back to another episode of South the Cheddar Curtain. As always, it's your boy Devin Hine, sitting across from the man, the myth, the legend, that is Mr. Lucas Mueller. You want to say hi to the folks, Luke?
Hello, folks.
Guys, we are back, and as always, whenever we make promises in the off-season about how consistent we're going to be, we never are, and for that, I know that both of us would like to deeply apologize.
100%, yeah. Even recently, right, we were supposed to do an episode on Saturday, and I ended up kind of coming down with something. We had to scrap what I don't think Devin was fully prepared for anyway, so that's okay. We're going to do a very deep dive on 40 prospects, 10 each at 4 different positions, and yeah, so we kind of had to skip over that.
Yeah, I was telling Luke that when he texted me that morning saying that he was feeling under the weather, that I had set my alarm clock for like 7 a.m. to watch 4 or 5 more hours of film before the show. So I'm happy you're doing better, but it's fair to say I would have been a little underwhelming, to say the least.
And that's okay. I was already ready to go. I mean, I was sending you and our other friend JP texts of like full-blown scouting reports at like 9:30 at night of the top 10 tight ends. You know, I was ready to go.
Yeah, guys, if you didn't know, when it comes to the draft, Luke is his devotion. It's just a whole another bag of rabbits, if you really ask me.
Oh, God.
Got to bring it back, baby. Bag of rabbits, 2023, get it going. But we didn't have our show on Saturday, but as we were preparing for our show, you know, this one today, we were talking about it yesterday. We are the spark that ignited the Aaron Rodgers trade, because then last night we could do our mocks.
Exactly. So clearly, we just were waiting for the Aaron Rodgers trade to be over finally. That's what it was. That's what it really was.
Yeah, but I'm also saying that we're the reason they finished
that
it.
It happened.
They must have known.
I mean, as owners,
Kunst must have known that, oh my God, South the Cheddar Curtain, they're doing their mock tomorrow. They don't want no asterisks with like, oh, what if the Aaron Rodgers trade? Because that was totally going to be a thing.
100% it was. But like, we actually have no idea what picks we do or do not have in this draft because we're waiting on Aaron Rodgers. But as owners, we got the deal done. You're welcome.
Indeed, we did. So just like last year, Luke and I did our own separate mock drafts that we haven't really discussed. I mean, little things here and there, but it's going to be a surprise to each other and to all of our loyal fans, which we thank you for, about what picks we took. I know that I told Luke that for my picks, I try to have a combination of, you know, not only need, but just some of the things that Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst just said, talking about how it's really deep edge class and other just little tidbits about trying to, you know, get in where their head's at.
Exactly. And I will say this is not necessarily what I would do in every case, but it does seem to fit what I think they will do from what we know, the kinds of players they like, maybe who they had in for visits, the athletes that these prospects are, all of that kind of goes into it. So we'll see. This will be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
As am I. So a couple things. Let's first off just kind of, again, mention for the viewers what we were going to be talking about last episode, or Saturday, we were going to record the episode, was our top 4 needs, which I believe we've agreed on is in no particular order. It's like tight end, safety, tackle. Did you say wide receiver? Was that 4 for you?
I was going to have wide receiver in there, yeah.
Okay, so those are the big 4. All right. So just quickly before we start our draft as well, the details of the Aaron Rodgers trade, so we know exactly what ammunition we have to work with. So the Jets get quarterback Aaron Rodgers and our 15th overall pick in the first round and our 5th rounder, number 170. The Packers received the Jets' first round pick, number 13 overall, second rounder this year, number 42 overall, a 6th rounder this year, number 207 overall, and a 2024 currently second round pick for next year, which becomes a first if Aaron Rodgers plays, I believe it's 65?
65, yeah.
65% of the snaps.
Which is pretty much a slam dunk, assuming no major injuries.
Precisely. And we are very happy that Gutekunst was able to push the Jets for the conditions of that pick to be individual performance. In this case, it's more so just participation, right? There's participation that we got as kids, those trophies, wonderful. Love to encourage it. Whereas last time when we traded Brett to the Jets, I think it was like a third or a fourth, and
It was a third that could turn to a second or a first based on team performance.
and it was like second making the playoffs, first going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just unfair for a particular trade. Shout out Brian, good job. I think he did a really excellent job with what he was able to bring back from this trade.
Especially when you kind of go back and don't want to get too in the weeds on this, but a lot of Jets fans are like, oh, you're not going to get a first. You're not going to get a first, right? Well, we probably will get a first out of this outside of the pick swap. Next year, more than likely, will be a first-round pick, which is huge. Next year's draft is much stronger than this year's, so the more ammunition you can have for next year opens up a world of possibilities.
Oh, for sure. And let's just say, by some awful circumstance, that Aaron Rodgers gets hurt early on. Tears an ACL off of a blindside rusher, and that's it. Well, guess what? If he doesn't start 65%, it's a second rounder. And if you have that Jets team with Zach Wilson backing him up, and if Aaron goes down early, we could still be looking at a pretty high second round pick, like 30s, 40s. So either way, I think we're coming out of here with a big win.
Yeah, I'm thinking this pick's probably in the 15 to 45 range. But that's probably a pretty safe bet. It's going to be within there somewhere.
Yeah, if Aaron's healthy, I mean, just with the stacked pieces they have on this team, I don't see how they don't at least flirt with the playoffs. The AFC is stacked, but these guys got a lot of horses.
That's why I think their floor is probably what we did last year. Absolute floor. Aaron gets hurt maybe for a couple games or something. They just don't quite click right away, and they end up 8 or 9, 9 and 8. That's where the 15 comes from.
For sure. You ready to begin?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
All right, who's going first?
Definitely you.
All right. So, Luke.
Yes.
What do you know about Scottish mythology?
Honestly, I took a lot of mythology classes in college.
You did.
Scottish is not what I'm super knowledgeable about, honestly.
Well, this is a pretty big one when it comes to Scottish mythology. Tell me, what do you know about the Loch Ness Monster?
I'm so glad you're going here. It's a monster in a lake.
It is, right?
That's what I know.
It's big. It's got a big neck. A lot of people have seen it.
Kind of gangly, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good way to
gangly.
describe it. People are always trying to see it. Big myth, right?
Yeah.
There was another mythical creature of sorts that was harassing Big Ten defenses all throughout I believe it was his junior year. I believe he was a junior this past year. This gentleman is 21 years old. He's 6'5", weighs 272. Technically an edge rusher. You can probably put him at defensive tackle, defensive end. I mean, you can kind of move around a little bit.
Huh?
His nickname is Hercules, talking about myths. If you're asking why I brought up the Loch Ness Monster, because we're bringing home at number 13, Lucas Van Ness, Barrington's own.
There it is.
Out of Iowa. Let's go, baby. I don't know if he's going to be there at 13, but Brian Gutekunst could not stop talking up this amazing edge rush class, this group. Not only can you put Lucas Van Ness as a sub for Preston Smith or taking over while we wait for Gary to return, but I also believe this is a guy that you can put in at a Dean Lowry spot and can be the why can't I think of it? The Batman and what's his
Robin?
sidekick? Thank you, Robin. I was too obsessed with Nessie to get there, but yeah, he could be the Robin to Kenny Clark's Batman. I think he's a perfect fit. If he's there at 13, he's a home run. The man's got a lot of power. You'd like for him to get a little bit more beef to be in the middle of those trenches.
Yeah, he's a little thin.
Something else you're going to love, according to Yahoo Sports, which is where I got all of my important stats, including Lucas Van Ness's 9.22 RAS score.
Yeah,
and as
good.
we know, Packers love guys with high RAS scores.
They absolutely do.
So 13, come on home, Nessie. Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa.
I love that. I actually, we're gonna have a theme here in our first round between the two of us, and it's probably not what you're gonna think. But I love Lucas Van Ness. I talked him up pretty highly in the last episode we did after the combine. Had a tremendous combine. The man's 270 whatever pounds, ran a 4.58 at 6'5".
He's a problem.
And if I remember correctly, I basically said he's just Rashawn Gary, right?
He's 2.0, yeah.
He's Rashawn Gary 2.0. I actually think there's two of those in this class that you could kind of take that are relatively interchangeable between him and Miles Murphy. But Lucas Van Ness is a little bit of a diamond in the rough. He's not quite fully formed yet. given that he had, I don't want to say he played limited snaps because he did play more than the starter snaps, but he did not start at Iowa. But definitely needs a little bit more experience. He does have the ability, like you talked about, to kind of kick inside. Largely what we saw Zadarius Smith do, kind of in his prime in Green Bay.
Just destroy centers.
Correct. 3rd and long. Just
Good luck, sir.
Just kill him. So I think he has some of that potential. He did do it at Iowa. He wasn't great at it, but he did do it, which means he already has some experience with that. I think if he does get a little bit stronger, that would be a huge thing. He's like lean at 6'5", 272, 278, whatever he is, which is a little ridiculous to say. But he's ripped. He's not even necessarily like huge and jacked. Like,
can you imagine just subbing? Like, imagine a Packers 2-4-5 front where you have Dean Lowry there, and then you just get like turbo upgraded, and it's Lucas Van Ness instead. Nessie himself coming out of the middle.
I do want them to give him 94. That would be awesome.
Amen, bro. Perfect.
That would be awesome. And replace the Illinois thing right there. I love it.
Iowa's pipeline has been great. I mean, besides Josh Jackson, right? It's the draft. You're not going to have 100%. But you think about Iowa Hawkeyes, my affectionate alma mater, even though I was there for like a year. It's fine. Doesn't matter. School I graduated didn't have a football team, so we're good. NIU doesn't count. Don't even say it.
Go Huskies.
You got Brian Bulaga.
Yeah.
You got Tyler Goodson.
You got Josh Jackson.
You got Josh. No, come on. You still got. Oh God, there's definitely more than that. Why am I blanking?
I don't know, man.
No, there was totally another one that we had recent. Oh, Mike Daniels. There we go.
Oh,
Mike
that's
Daniels
the good
is
one.
the big one. Yeah,
that's the good one.
So I mean, you got 2 out of the 3.
You did.
3 out of 4, kind of. I mean, Goodson's fine for an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, nothing wrong with him. I liked him. I thought we should have kept him over Patrick Taylor on the roster. So did you. So
he'll be around in the spring. We'll see.
But yeah, I like that pick. I like that pick, honestly.
It's pretty mythical when you think about it.
I don't have anywhere near that kind of lead up into it, although I will say another player from Illinois. So you may be able to kind of guess where I'm going with this.
Is he? Oh, yeah. You know what? I thought about this one too.
It just felt when I was up drafting in my mock draft, I'm like, JSN was gone.
Ooh,
right.
He
was gone.
Odd. Okay.
I think he went right in front of us to the Texans or whatever. So Jackson Smith and Jigba, the top wide receiver.
Why do the Texans need a wide receiver? They have Amari Rodgers, for God's sakes. Like, what the fuck are they doing?
So I was like, okay, he wasn't there. I wanted to take Lucas Van Ness. We're like, no. I think if I'm Goody, potentially at this point,
his name is Nessie. Continue.
Nessie. At this point, this guy was falling. I believe, because I believe he's one of the top prospects in the draft, and that is Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. Tackle, guard, whatever you want to call him, from Park Ridge, Illinois. So there's our connection.
So Park Ridge's own, one might say.
Park Ridge's own. So he does not have necessarily ideal length to be a tackle, even though that's where he played. He's got kind of short arms. However, he does have ideal height and weight for a Packer lineman. So, I was listening to a podcast, might have been about a month ago, and they talked about we don't really get big maulers, right? We don't have giants outside like Caleb Jones. That the biggest like starting lineman that we've had in recent times was 314 pounds. I was like TJ Lang type of thing.
Yeah.
So at 6'4", 313, he very much fits into the mold of what we currently think our offensive linemen look like. He can play left tackle, maybe not long-term elite. He's maybe not Bakhtiari's replacement, but he can play left tackle. He can play left guard. He can play right guard. He can play right tackle. Something we know the Packers love. That kind of versatility.
For sure.
I think he steps in day one. Maybe he takes John Runyon Jr.'s job. Maybe he takes that right tackle position. I think he starts day one and just makes overall your offensive line that much better because he's a technician while being an elite athlete at both tackle and guard. Something like a 9.8 score, something like that for a guard. At tackle, he's a little bit lower, but still in the 9s.
It's still ridiculous.
It's still ridiculous athlete. Year one starter. Played at a big program against Nessie. Against some really, really good edge rushers in this class from the Big Ten. I think he's a stud. He's the grandson of a Packers Hall of Famer.
Yeah, can't forget that. He's got Green Bay in his blood. It's only right that he comes home.
And he's from Illinois. Like, it's perfect. And he's young. He's a junior, a true junior. So he's 21, 22 years old. I mean, I could see it, and I think there's a lot of value if he slides to us.
I saw a couple other mocks where we took Skoronski, and I do like the pick for a lot of reasons, like you said.
It's not exciting, I know.
It's not exciting. It's not sexy. But I will say I would be more excited than I ever have been for an offensive line pick because you think about the guys that we got, right? Bakhtiari will be left tackle this year. You got Runyon, you got Jenkins, you got right tackle. My memory is so bad. Yash, thank you.
Tom,
Yash, who's back on a
whoever
1-year
ends up
deal.
over there.
Zach Tom as well. We have all these pieces that can be moving around. And if you have Skoronski, then yeah, you can really, you could put him at guard. You could move Elton Jenkins to center, which people have said that he should do.
To get Myers out of the way.
To get Myers out of the way.
He's probably our weak link.
I would agree with that. It gives you
would
a
too.
lot of options and versatility. You can try him at right tackle. I mean, it's a lot of options. I love the pick. Illinois zone, another one, so you can be a little less depressed about all of the
We lost
exodus.
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
We lost both jerseys I own are gone, right? And most of Illinois is gone. So I need something this year, guys. I need something.
You want a Skoronski jersey if he comes?
Maybe.
All right, I'll think about it.
All right, round 2. What do you got?
Round 2.
Early round 2, pick 42.
Pick 42. This gentleman is not going to be here at 42. I really doubt it.
I like that you're honest.
But I wasn't too salty about taking Dalton Kincaid.
Woo!
Also known as Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah. This gentleman is the prototypical vertical threat in the passing game. He can't block for shit, but that's fine. That's what Josiah's for. I wrote on Dalton Kincaid, hands God, and I stand by my words. This gentleman tracks the ball in the air. If it's a 50-50 ball, it's not. It's his. You don't have rights to that. This gentleman can attack the seam. You have a lot of defenses these days playing a lot of cover 3. Best way to hit that is down the seam.
Yep.
I remember specifically sitting down here in this basement talking with you once Big Bob got hurt, and your big issue with Josiah was that he could not penetrate deep down the seam, deep down the middle, and damn it, you were right. I love Josiah, but it's true.
It's not his thing.
Dalton Kincaid fixes that. According to NFL.com's Greg Zerline, he compares to Zach Ertz, who's always been like a top 10 at least. Tight end of the league, very consistent for 6, 7, 8 years.
Which could be easy to forget about now because Zach Ertz is old. But prime Zach Ertz, when he's getting like 110 catches a year.
Dude, he was that dude.
He was.
He was a problem. And again, we got a young quarterback. What does everyone say a best friend is for a young quarterback? A good, big, solid-handed tight end.
Yep.
So this is perfect for him. Also, I'd like to add, I did not check which players in the draft did pre-draft visits. And I know it's something that people maybe think isn't that important, but last year, like 5 of the guys we took, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, and a few others were pre-draft visits, which means you can have 30 guys like come to the facility and do a more intensive interview. Dalton Kincaid was one of them. I doubt he's going to be there in the second round. This could be a situation where if at 13 we don't see anybody that we like, we trade back and maybe we take him in the late 20s. But if Dalton Kincaid's a Packer, I'd be pretty happy.
I would be incredibly happy. And I think that's a good point to bring up also, that with all these picks, there's a good chance we are not picking at 13 and 42 and 45 and 78, right? Some of these are not going to be, we're going to move around. We're going to go back up into the last half of the first round. We're going to move down in the first round, whatever.
Goody always does, and some of his best picks have been off of that.
The Jair pick, we got a whole nother first round pick because of that, because we moved down and then went back up.
Christian Watson.
Yep. I mean,
moved up 2 picks, yeah.
Love it. So I think there's a good chance that we will move around to kind of target some of the guys we're looking at. So yeah, Dalton Kincaid's not going to be there at 42. There's no way. He's tight end 1 in this draft class, and I personally, I don't think it's close. So one of the positions we were going to talk about was tight end on the show, and it's the one that kind of started this whole thing because I just started going down a rabbit hole of watching all these tight ends. Devin's giving me a look about the rabbit hole comments.
Rabbit hole. Bag of rabbits?
I went down the bag of rabbits, watching a bunch of tight ends, and I just came away going like, whoa, Dalton Kincaid's that guy, man. I mean, he put up 8 touchdown seasons back to back, 2 of them back to back. Can't block, you're absolutely right. Very good athlete, very good acceleration. He has a lot of Travis Kelce to his game. I think it's some of the route running and kind of the intermediate and breaking long type of plays. So I think he's not the tallest tight end. I think he's 6'4".
Better size than what we have.
100%. Big Bob's 6'5". Obviously, some of the other tight ends in this draft class are a little bit taller, but he's still got good size, not great size, but incredible athlete. If you wanted JSN in the first round, this guy largely does the same thing, if that makes sense.
Fair. And I'd also like to point out this gentleman is, you can like put him out like a lot of these tight ends you see nowadays in these pass happy pro style offenses. They go out and they're lining up in the slot, which he can do. But a lot of what I saw from him was lining up in line next to the tackle and still creating advantageous angles in the passing
100%.
game to help out his quarterback.
And like you said, great hands, great breaks, great routes. I mean, this guy he's going to terrorize defenses for a decade at this point.
For sure.
He's going to be awesome. So I love that pick. Love that pick for you, Devin.
Thank you, sir. All right, buddy. You're up. Round 2. Where are we going?
All right. Well, to be slightly more realistic, we're going to stay on the tight end train.
Okay.
And
hey, my board fell where it fell, bro.
It's not your fault. It could happen, right?
Could happen.
And I will say that Darnell Washington was on the board, and I did not take him.
You passed on Darnell Washington.
I did.
On the founding father himself.
And this is going to be a little bit of a hot take, and this was I was going to do on the Saturday show. Don't like Darnell Washington very much. I don't like Michael Mayer very much. I don't like Darnell Washington very much. He's still going to be a good player. Don't get me wrong, but I don't particularly want him all that much. So I passed on him. Instead, took another tight end, Luke Musgraves.
That's still good. I was hoping for the Iowa boy, but I'll take it.
So Luke Musgraves, obviously Lucas. We got Luke and Lucas.
Isn't it Luke Musgrave?
It's Luke Musgrave, and you picked Lucas.
I understand
we got people here all over the place.
You were saying Luke Musgraves. I have a dear friend who adds S at the end of names, and it drives me insane.
Luke Musgrave, out of Oregon State, 6'6", senior. Now, this guy's all about projection, right? He ran a 4.61 40, which at his size, pretty good. Pretty good, right? Like I said, 6'6", 253. Love that size. Man kind of gallops. He's a long strider. Talk about the seam. I think Devin's died over here. I think he is quite possibly even better up the seam than Dalton Kincaid. He's not nearly as good in and out of his routes and in the intermediate, I don't think. Not yet, anyways. But up the seam, the man, especially given that extra height, is a weapon.
The frame that he has.
The frame. Perfect. Bigger than Big Bob. Huge hands. Soft hands. Good can catch. Solid stash game, so that's also positive.
Very important. Now that Aaron's gone, we need some facial hair.
He's got some top-end speed. I think his quickness isn't awesome, but like I said, up the seam, drag routes, that kind of thing, they used him. It's hard to see a lot of that on film necessarily because he didn't play a lot of football. So he was hurt. He didn't start. A whole bunch of other things. He really only played like 12 games in college. So it's a lot of projection. He's got the NFL body. He's got the NFL size. Got the NFL athleticism. I think he would be a huge weapon. And he's going to take a little time to develop. But when you're 6'6" and have a 36-inch vertical, like, you're going to be fine. Right?
Yeah.
I think you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You immediately are red zone weapon. Like you're talking about, cover 3, stretch the seam. I love that. I absolutely love the kind of player he can be. And I think, as you'll see later, I kind of have a backup option as well.
I see.
Because this tight end room is light. So you were talking about Zach Ertz, right? It's the comp for your guy. Comp for my guy, another Eagle, Dallas Goedert.
That's a solid comp, yeah.
That's pretty good, right?
And that's a solid player that we'd take.
Yeah, I'd be happy with Dallas Goedert. 100%. Several 1,000-yard seasons, pretty good all around. Luke Musgrave, they mentioned that he, not a terrible blocker, gives good effort. And when you're that big and you give good effort, we can teach the rest.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll at least be serviceable. We made Big Bob not a terrible blocker. We can make Luke Musgrave not a terrible blocker. So that's what I'm going with. The first pick of the second round for us.
Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with Musgrave. Does have that vertical upside, and he's honestly a much more realistic prospect to be there in the second round. We'll see how
I would love Dalton, though.
Yeah, I mean, either one I'd be very happy with. Let's just get one of these vertical threat tight ends to help out Mr. Jordan Love, because as you know, guys, it's really all about love.
It is. It is the season of love.
It is a season of love. All right, third or second round, second pick?
Second round, second pick. What do you got? This is where things probably start to get interesting.
This is my draft darling.
Oh, boy.
And I really hope that he's here at pick 45. This gentleman shares the name of an ex-girlfriend of mine, and just like her, he can wreck your day real quick.
Oh, God.
Safety out of Illinois, Sidney Brown. Gentleman had a 9.63 RAS score. He's 5'10", 211. He is an absolute ball hawk. Not only can he intercept the ball, he knows what to do with it when it's in his hands, and he does not shy away from running plays. He'll blow up a screen. He ran a 4.47 40. In 2022, he was a first-team All-Big Ten, 6 picks, was third in college football, 3.5 tackles for loss, 7 pass breakups. He is very physical, not the most fluid in his hips, but I think he easily fits our hole at strong safety. And for Rick Bisaccia, he can play special teams. I love you, Sidney Brown. Just don't break my heart.
That was great. Yeah, so Illinois has a couple good safeties coming out in this draft, right? That is one of them.
It's the best one.
It's yeah, we'll go with that. He's the best one. They also have 2 brothers coming out in this draft. Is he the best one as well? Is he better than Chase Brown, the running back?
Of course he is.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, ball hawk. I love to see. That's all I want, honestly. You could just stop there, and I would have been happy. This safety class is pretty terrible. Honestly, it's real bad.
You got one guy who might be good, and the rest, they're all like, there's a big drop-off. Well, if that guy might be good, then good Lord.
Right. And the safety was a class that I was looking forward to kind of diving in on as well, because they're all very different, and none of them fit what we like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, even Brown's a little small for our size.
They're pretty much all small. Or you have the guy from Boise, who I hope you didn't take at some point.
Skinner.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I love his, in a different draft I did, love his name.
Love his name. I'm gonna go off on a small tangent here because I loved the comparison I made when we were texting back and forth about safeties.
Oh, please remind me. I
will. So J.L. Skinner is this scrawny 6'4" guy that plays safety for Boise State, right? And I was talking about, he can't, he struggles to kind of get low because he's so tall, and when you watch him tackle, that honestly is exactly what happens. He gets blown up more so most of the time. It's like, man, this is what would happen if someone let Devin put MVS at safety. This is what it looks like. Because dude is scrawny out there. And he's a ball hawk, and he's lanky, and he's fast, and that's all great. But it just doesn't look right.
Well, now I want him. Give me Randy at safety.
That's what
I want.
We're not talking like Derwin James out there, who's an oversized safety. We're talking about like a wide receiver that just got lost and ended up on the field during a play.
You need to realize that if we draft J.L. Skinner, you're hearing about Razulgad and Randy in the back half, and why we have no reason to fear anything whatsoever. You set yourself up for that.
I 100% did. 100% did. But Sidney Brown, that seems like a really smart pick. I'm glad that you addressed safety because we have like 7 safeties and they all suck.
Pretty much, yeah.
They're all like special teams player or Darnell Savage, who at this point's a slot.
Hey, Rudy Ford is solid safety 3, but yeah, we need 1 and
2 first, right?
But I still don't love the idea that we're just gonna bring Darnell Savage back as safety. I think he is better in the slot. I think that you're making 2 positions worse.
I completely agree. The problem with this draft class is they're all slots. Like most of the safeties in this draft class are slots.
I know, tangent. Still want to say, move Razul back to safety. And then you put Savage in the slot, and you have Jair and Stokes on the outside, because I remember that Eric Stokes exists. And then you put my boy, good old Sidney over there.
Hey,
and Rudy, and there we go.
I like that. I like that for you.
You're up, kid.
All right.
Which of your ex-girlfriends do you have in this pick? Oh, wait, you have none, so.
So I'm not going to say this guy's entire name. If we draft him, I'll learn how to not butcher it. FAU out of Kansas State. Edge rusher. My man is 6'3", 255 pounds, 33.5-inch arms.
Wait,
pretty lanky.
FAU is his name? Is it Felix
It's his
something?
name. Yeah, Felix Anaduke Uzama.
He was a pre-draft visit, I believe.
He was. This is why I didn't take Lucas Van Ness in the first round. Because I feel like it is a very deep edge class, right? There's a lot. The second round is full of them.
Gutekunst has said as much.
There's the Northwestern guy. You got Keon White. You got Will McDonald. There's the guy from Army, maybe in the 3rd or 4th. Like, there's a lot of people, and they're all freaks. It's like the opposite of the safety class. In this case, they're all good, and they're all freaks. So, this guy, NFL comparison, Dante Fowler Jr.
That's a nice
Give me
comp.
some of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plays with a really, really good motor. High level of intensity. Seems like the way they described it, Lance Zierlein described it, possesses a buffet of rush approaches that he can choose from.
I'll have another course of that. Thank you.
A buffet.
Thank you.
I love that. I love when someone comes out of college and has a game plan when rushing the passer. Rashawn Gary, not that guy. Lucas Van Ness, probably not that guy, right? A lot of the true athletic freaks don't learn that until the NFL, right? Our boy Enikbare, he came to the NFL with options because he had to, right? He had to be a technician. This guy comes with options, right? He's got swim moves. He's got counter moves. He's got bull rush moves, speed to power, all that. But he's also athletic. So what I'm seeing here is an athletic Enikbare, which
And
I would
that's
love to see.
dangerous.
So obviously he still needs to learn more, right? He's going to be a rookie edge rusher. It's going to be situational, right? No matter who these guys are. But I think to kind of help bulk up that position, same as for when you took Lucas, bulk up that position until Gary gets back, and then next year probably take over for Preston. I love this.
Yeah, totally agree. Very good value pick in the 3rd round. This is a guy who
Second
round, thank you, who has multiple moves.
Yep.
And fits the need exactly. I mean, we're both hitting it in different spots, but like you said, needing to take over until Gary gets back and then maybe take over for Preston next year. I love the pick. I'd be very happy if we take this dude.
Me too. So far I'm liking our draft, Devin.
Yeah, amen.
This is where things get interesting.
Indeed it is. Well, slightly less interesting. I don't have any good quibs about this guy. Or pretty much the rest of them. So the fun part of the show is now over. What are we 78. That's 3rd round now.
We're into the 3rd, yeah.
All right.
We're into the 3rd.
So 3rd round, I decided to hit offensive tackle.
Oh, okay.
So I took Matthew Bergeron.
Okay.
I mean, of course he's a tackle. Bergeron. Probably eats a
Love
lot of burgers. There we go.
Probably.
There's my little thing for this guy.
Probably.
Offensive tackle out of Syracuse. Probably. That was a little frightening. Just noticed you were doing that. So he's 6'5", 322, but he feels pretty slender. He looks more like a tight end, honestly.
That's not bad though.
And he looks a little thin.
Yeah, he's a rookie. Fill out.
So Canadian.
Ooh.
Fun fact. Got a couple of Canadians in my draft. Hey, bud.
Oh, I like it.
So he's primarily left tackle, has played right, so we can kind of swing him around. Some experts say that he could play guard, kind of like Skoronski.
Okay.
So we could draft this guy and move him around.
That's a big guard.
It is a big guard. That could be a problem.
I like it.
We just need another good offensive lineman. And I mean, we've talked about the uncertainty with both tackle spots, but also for this next season, maximizing our output at the starting 5. You could put him in for one of the guard spots, move some things around, move out in the center. We've already talked about it. Yeah, good hips. He's good at sliding. I think he needs to bulk up a little bit more and be a little bit better with his hands. But overall, I think he'd be a good contribution.
I like that. So far, we've basically hit on all the same stuff here, right?
Yeah.
You just took it a little bit later. So yeah, I don't really have a ton more to add. I think offensive line is someplace we're very overall sound right now, but you never know what the future holds. Well, it probably doesn't hold David Bakhtiari.
Probably not.
So we got to figure something out, whether that's who we have now or it's always best to bulk up on the offensive line, and that's something we're really good at.
And we always do. We always draft at least 1 or 2 offensive linemen. So I suspect that we will be taking one. It wouldn't be surprising me if it's that early, if not earlier with your Skoronski pick. That would make perfect sense.
It would. So I love this pick for us, especially since it sounds like he's versatile. It sounds good to me, man. I'll take it.
You're up, guy.
Okay. This one's for you, bud. This one's for you.
Oh, my.
This one's for you. Highland, Illinois' own. Iowa Hawkeye.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Bring him home.
Sam Laporta.
Sam Laporta. Come on home, baby.
I just saw him sitting there. I'm like, am I really going to take 2 tight ends in the first 3 rounds? I'm like, and then I looked at our depth chart, right? And I saw Josiah, who's like not even really a tight end.
He's more of a fullback, but he is a great fullback.
I'm not arguing.
Thank you.
And then we have Tyler Davis.
Yeah, for the love of God. Take 4 more tight ends, please.
I was like, that's not even enough for one
set.
Right. Like,
you go 2 tight ends and a fullback. What are we going to do? I don't want Tyler Davis out there.
We're going to put Zach Top out there? I don't know.
No, Caleb Jones. Put him at tight end. He's a big boy.
Red zone threat. Okay.
All right. So
Sam Laporta. Woo! We're back. 6'3", slightly undersized, 245, right? Ran 4.59. So one of the things that coming out of college for him was that people didn't think he was going to be super athletic, but his testing scores were great. 4.59, 35-inch vert, good 3-cone, good 10-yard split. I loved all that, right? Mm-hmm. So he's an athlete, which I love to see. Interesting thing about him is since he came from Iowa, tight end U, not Notre Dame. Definitely not Notre Dame. It's 100% Iowa.
It's definitely Iowa. Thank you.
The problem with Iowa tight ends is that they play at Iowa. And Iowa sucks at offense. So
tread lightly.
It's hard to actually tell with a lot of these guys. So I feel like they're always undervalued.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Because the quarterbacks are always trash. Always. For decades at this point. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like counting in my head, like I'm literally staring up at the wall going in a circle, like, oh yeah, no, that tracks. You're good.
Yeah, like CJ Beathard's probably the best you got in recent memory. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, by a lot, unfortunately.
Miles.
So, the interesting thing, because they don't have an offense ever in Iowa, is that they did utilize him kind of creatively, which was good to see. So, this guy, athletic, slightly undersized, but I think given that I took Luke Musgrave, who's a giant, I think they could pair very well together.
A nice Batman and Robin.
Exactly.
If you will.
Now that you remember who Robin is.
Yeah. It's my life.
So they split him out wide at times, and he would win on slant routes, use his body.
Well, as bad as Iowa quarterbacks are, Iowa receivers are pretty close right there too. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's a very good point. So they used him that. They threw him tunnel screens, right? And what I love to see that I don't think Luke Musgrave necessarily has is he has some Dalton Kincaid in him. Like I'm really high on Sam Laporta. And I think I told you that when I was going through all the tight ends. He has some of the after the catch ability where he's juking people, man. He's making people miss. He's got a little bit of that, the kind of like, you know how they throw the ball to Travis Kelce like 8 yards and he ends up with 20. You're like, how did no one tackle him?
And he's slow but weirdly jukes people and doesn't.
And he's like in the middle of the field, surrounded by everybody, and he still gets like another 10 yards. Sam Laporta can do that. He did it in college. I believe he could do it in the NFL. The athleticism numbers, I think, show that he has the ability. It's not just because he's going up against slow college players. I think he really has the ability to do a lot after the catch. I think you're not going to throw Luke Musgrave a ton of tunnel screens. I don't think it's going to happen. I think you could do that to Sam Laporta. I think you can utilize them very differently, but also in this offense that we think we're going to see really for the first time under Matt LaFleur, I think he's going to rely heavily on tight ends, so hopefully we get some at some point because we don't have any currently. I think he would be a really, really good piece going forward.
It's no secret that I love Iowa. It's no secret that I love Iowa tight end, so the Sam Laporta pick is perfect for me. Thank you, sir. Like you said, the LaFleur offense does love multiple tight end sets.
I mean, we were playing Dominic Daphne for God knows how long.
Exactly, for pretty much the entire wildcard game against the 49ers, and we thought that was a good idea. So having an upgrade here would be really helpful for the offense, for Love's development, and I think it would be a great pick. And just look at the track record. All right, when was the last time you can think of an Iowa tight end, starting tight end, that did not get drafted, that did not do well? You got Hawkinson, you got Fant, you got George.
Those were the same year.
You got Dallas Clark, you got Scott Chandler. It is tight end you.
Who's the other one? Owen Daniels.
I mean, the list just goes on and on. Since like the mid to late 90s, Iowa's tight end you. We don't miss. If he comes home, him and Nessie can be buddies. Be great.
It would be great. It would be great. And look at how many Illinois players we could have then. That would be awesome.
And just to make you happy, that's what I care about.
I'm loving this, man. I'm loving this. I think that'd be fun. And maybe not necessarily going after pass catchers the way that most of us would like to.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, this isn't really the draft for that, unfortunately. But hey, if we can bulk up that tight end room and it be good for years at this point, Josiah's still relatively young, right? Tyler Davis is just kind of whatever. I think we'd be good for a while.
I don't disagree. However, so that we're not attacking pass catchers. Oh, you bet we're attacking pass catchers because at 116, we got Jonathan Mingo, boy out of Ole Miss. He's the second highest RAS score, and Luke is laughing his ass off. Gentlemen, a 9.93 RAS score.
Would you like to know why?
Why?
Because we're going to combine our fourth round picks because we picked the same guy.
Oh, baby. Didn't happen last year. Let's go. Johnny Mingo.
Love John Mingo.
Your analysis will be much better than mine, so I'll fire off my notes.
And just keep going, man. Keep going. I'm loving it.
So, again, his RAS score 9.93. Watson was 9.96. Gentleman is 22, 6'2", 225. He ran a 4.4, 640, which isn't amazing, but I think Devontae was even slower than that. So slow your roll there.
And Jordy Nelson.
Thank you. He's a 4-star recruit. He did set the Ole Miss record last year for 247 yards receiving against Vanderbilt. He has good hands. This gentleman is primarily a slot receiver, but I've seen it a couple times. They just put him on the outside on go routes, like a 50-50 back shoulder fade. It's his. Thank you very much. This guy is special with the ball in his hands. He competes between that and the versatility at inside or outside. Be very happy if he is a Packer. Come on home, Mr. Mingo.
He feels like a Packer pick through and through, right? I love Jonathan Mingo. I think I'm not going to be a downer here, but I do think that 40-yard dash time is a little suspect in my mind. I don't think he plays that fast.
And that's
I
okay.
think he plays more like a 4.5, 4.55 guy. But 39.5-inch vertical for a guy that's already 6'2". You love that. 10.9 broad jump. 22 reps. That's pretty good, man.
Of the
For
bench,
a wide receiver.
boy's got some power.
For a wide receiver, like you said, 6'2", 220, 225, whatever it is, that's pretty big for a wide receiver. And he's like A.J. Brown light is pretty much what he is. I know NFL.com compared him to Anquan Bolden. I think he's got more juice than Anquan Bolden. But
I did see, but okay, time out. Even just hitting Anquan Bolden would be huge.
That would be. I don't think he has great kind of separation and long speed, but intermediate routes, that kind of thing. That's not how A.J. Brown wins, for instance, right?
No, it's not.
That's not how Anquan Bolden won. You take that slant, you break a tackle, you break it off for 20, 30-yard gain. Like, that's their game.
Yeah, you
right?
don't want to tackle him if you're a DB.
Because it's like you're tackling a fullback at that point. I mean, it's pretty thick. That's an impressive physique for someone like that. And I would love Jonathan Mingo to be here still. He's been kind of a late riser in the draft process, so I hope he's still around. But even if we took him around earlier, I would be ecstatic with him. Be ecstatic with the production I think he could give us in a different kind of wide receiver. I think that's what I'm looking for out of the receiver group in this draft, because it's not very good, honestly, this receiving class, and they're all tiny. So if you can get like one of the couple guys that isn't tiny.
Yeah, this is one of the bigger dudes at 6'2".
And at 220, I mean, that's you can just manhandle corners at the point of attack like you talked about. That almost 40-inch vertical 50-50 balls are going to be his. I love that. And definitely a different kind of guy than either Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs. So I love it. I love it, man. Clearly, because we both took him.
Amen, brother. Didn't happen last year. That's a first.
It did not.
Well, I double dipped.
Oh.
And I went receiver again at 149. I took another founding father. This is Parker Washington.
Parker Washington, okay.
Wide receiver out of Penn State. He's a little guy. He's 5'10", 204. Fun
He's
fact.
small.
Cousin of NFL journeyman quarterback Joshua Dobbs. I said he's a blue-collar kind of guy. He's got some speed limitations. He's kind of like a cheap, gadget-like receiver. You can throw him on some bubble screens. Just kind of throw him open into space, and then he'll make people miss and run over people. He does jump out of the gym. This guy, he was at Penn State. I don't remember what the quarterback was, but he was not super accurate. And a lot of his highlights are about making like a ridiculous catch on a 7-yard out route. Like the ball is just poorly thrown, and he's going to sacrifice his body to go with the ball.
Love that.
Dude is not going to win amazingly in man-to-man coverage, which is why he's receiver 3, 4, 5, not number 1. But, I mean, you think about guys that you can put out onto the field in those type of sets. This is a guy that's going to do everything that he can to get the ball in his hands and help his team win. Just a little jitterbug. I literally wrote, "Will sell his soul for the ball."
Oh, I love that.
Come on down.
You know what that kind of sounds like? And I don't know. I haven't watched. We're getting to the point where like I'm losing knowledge here on some of these guys. But you know who that sounds like will sell their soul to the ball? What former not giant Packer receiver would sell his soul for the ball?
Randall Cobb?
100%.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing.
I don't know if their play styles are all that similar, but if someone is small and has some limitations, they could still make it work.
Yeah, a lot of heart goes a long way in the NFL.
100%, especially when playing against the Bears.
And if you're looking at Randall Cobb, I mean, he isn't wonderful at separating from single coverage either, unless it's Chris Conti. But then again, so would Luke and I. So
True. But so I love that. And yeah, we just need to fill out that wide receiver room. We have like 3 guys currently, 4 guys.
I believe
4?
we have 4, including the mysterious Bo Melton,
who's a burner that
Apparently.
I hope actually gets to do something.
He's like 6'3".
He's an
He's a
absolute
big boy.
burner.
Yeah.
For like 4.3 speed, we got Toure, we got Watson, and we got Dubs. So yeah, we just need to fill out that room with different kinds of guys and with talent. So if we get someone who's kind of sure-handed and can make good contested catches, hey man, I'm all for it.
He feels like if we pick him up, he would be preseason MVP with over 250 receiving and 4 touchdowns. You heard it here first.
I love that. So I went the other side of the ball.
All right. I'm
Okay.
here for it.
About someone I know nothing about, really, truthfully. I went with Corey Trice Jr. out of Purdue. Cornerback. Maybe cornerback.
How big is he?
6'3", 206.
Oh, you piqued my interest.
And my man ran a 4.47. Okay, 17 bench reps. That's pretty good for a corner. So they talk about how he could potentially play strong safety. He's got that kind of build, but he doesn't actually have the temperament for it. Like, well, if we try to move Demarius Randall to safety and Quentin Robinson and all that, this guy seems like a better prospect for that. So
I would agree with that statement.
So he's got really good size and length. He's got good speed. He's really good in press, which isn't something we necessarily play a ton of, but we started to play a little bit more of it, even while in zone at the end of last year, right?
Yes.
So I think this guy's more just like a chess piece necessarily. I don't think he's coming for Eric Stokes' job or anything like that, or Rasul Douglas potentially, but unless Rasul goes to safety.
But if
I
you
guess.
draft this guy, what does that give you, Luke?
That gives you options. Gives you the options.
Flexibility. It's beautiful.
Exactly. Maybe this guy can come in and play safety in certain coverages and certain situations type of thing. Because somebody's going to have to play safety, and I haven't drafted one yet. So we're going to need somebody somehow. So even if he's not physical and pretty fast and pretty big, I'll take that at this point in the draft. I mean, you're drafting traits at this point, right? All the blue chip guys are kind of gone.
Not trying to be mean, but there's a reason that you're still available in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round.
Midwest scout for AFC team said he's getting slept on. He can't play in certain coverages. That's not great. But that guy's a monster in press. Okay, I'll take it.
Maybe you put him on a tight end, That sounds like a good matchup.
Yeah.
He's that good in press. He's got good size, can stay with him.
We've had problems with that in the past with, like, who do you put on that kind of mismatched monster tight end when we play against him?
We got a lot of you got Dallas Goddard, you got George God, you got Cole Kmet's up and coming. We do have tight ends that we may have to see down the road.
All the tight ends in this class, pretty much.
Oh God, if someone gets salty dalty, we're in trouble. Hopefully we don't have to play them.
Gonna be for a bad time.
Amen.
All right, what do you got?
All right. So at 207,
207.
I took defensive tackle.
Okay.
Out of Oklahoma.
Okay.
Jalen Redmond.
Okay.
This gentleman has the best RAS score of a defensive lineman. I think they more so meant defensive tackle specifically. I'm not sure, with the whole edge versus 4-3 defensive end.
The end edge thing gets hairy.
This guy's a 9.63 RAS score. He's 6'3", 298. NFL.com says he's kind of like a rotational defensive tackle. Struggles with getting off some double teams. He does have good active hands. I kind of think of him as like just like the 2-4-5 replacement, right, for Dean Lowry if we're still going with that set.
Poor Dean.
Some people said you could think about putting him at nose tackle. I don't know. If we're gonna go like with or in 3-4, I still would not put him at nose. I would leave Kenny or TJ Slayton there, but you could put him at the Dean Lowry or the what was the guy from Seattle, Jerron Reed spot. And I think he'd be an upgrade. We need another body there regardless, and it'd be nice to get somebody with a little more physical upside than an undrafted free agent. So I took my shot on Mr. Redmond, and I think he might have been a pre-draft visit, but I'm not positive.
I like that. Hey, Matt, we will always take more big uglies. That defensive line room needs to get better, and we've lost a lot of people over the last couple of years, and we're looking for some more to step up. So, I mean, even last year, who was the other guy? The other Slayton. Right? We had two of them.
Yeah, forgetting his name. Honestly, I think we both pushed him to make the roster.
We did.
He could have an easy Chris Slayton. He could have an easy slide in.
Yep.
He's like 4 or 5 years in the league, a little older.
Like that.
But I mean, it's either going to be like a Redmond guy or one of these, I think, lower tier defensive linemen or an undrafted free agent / bargain bin free agent. We're not going to be investing heavily when you have Kenny Clark,
Devontae,
exactly,
TJ Slayton.
Yeah,
all that.
You got Jonathan Garvin to help out too. I mean, you don't need much more.
Especially if we get some of our edge rushers to kind of push down inside once in a while that we're drafting here. I mean, you don't necessarily need to go that heavily into it, but you do need some bodies there for the end of the roster, so that makes sense. I like it.
You got Nessie. People gonna be running, bro. They don't want none of that smoke. He can breathe.
All right, so I'm going with another similarly built guy, different position for my last one. I'm going with Marte Mapu. I don't know if you've heard of him.
The name rings a bell.
He's 6'3", 217. There's debate on what position he plays on defense. He's kind of a tweener between a linebacker and a safety, which I know we both love those guys. We love them. Now, we're getting towards the end of the draft, right? So I'm thinking some special teams, perhaps. I think this is kind of like the Tariq Carpenter pick. You know, we're in that range.
Literally perfect, yeah.
I think if he stays thinner, a lot of people talked about him bulking up to kind of become a linebacker. If he stays thinner, well, then maybe he helps add to that safety room. Now, do we need more people in the safety room? Probably not, but also just cut some of the guys we already have. None of them are any good anyways, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a hodgepodge.
Yeah, 100%. So he's kind of like an oversized safety, doesn't necessarily have great long speed, but excels in coverage against tight ends, which is kind of what we just talked about, which I love. He had 6 picks in the last 2 years. So
Ball hawk.
Right, kind of a ball hawk, can run through tackles. I mean, he's a hitter for his size, clearly because people think he's going to become a linebacker. So I think some special teams value, maybe some back end of the roster. At this point, you're just kind of looking for somebody interesting, right?
And he definitely is that. I'd
think
give him
so.
interesting.
Kind of a tweener, you know, super poor man's like Isaiah Simmons type of vibe.
Super poor man's Isaiah Simmons.
Well, Isaiah Simmons didn't turn out to be very good, so maybe not that super.
Just
maybe
one super.
Just like one super poor version of Isaiah Simmons. But some more flexibility. I don't necessarily know what the defense is going to look like this year, given that we had kind of 2 very different defenses last year. Are we going to start with the right one this time? Maybe?
I sure hope so. Probably not, though, based on what we've seen.
Probably not. So he can read the quarterback very well when he's in kind of those shorter box zones. That's kind of where he excels. So maybe you throw him out there in some third down situations. It's just kind of a guy who, just in case, he can actually tackle, you know?
Yeah, man, I'm okay with us just throwing darts at the safety room.
Just somebody.
I mean, it feels like even early on, some of them would still be dots or darts, my apology. But, I mean, you just got to try here, right? I just don't think we can go out with the group that we have and expect to have a lot of success. Maybe Rudy Ford takes a better jump and is a solid, strong safety.
But even then...
And then I still don't like Savage being at safety. I want him in the slot. So you got a lot of issues in the safety room. You know, it does sound like Tariq Carpenter, but maybe this guy will be a little bit better. And we still have to see what Tariq is going to be in year 2. But I like the pick.
Yeah.
All right, so we have
7th round.
We have okay. Do you want to just list our 4 7th rounders, just rapid fire?
Yeah,
because it's the 7th round.
It's the 7th round. I only really care about like one of my guys.
Yeah, a lot of mine. I'm like, yeah. All right. 232. I took running back Evan Hall out of Northwestern.
Ooh, I do like him though.
Power back. He's slow. He's very deliberate.
He's got good hands though.
He does, but you know exactly where he's going to go. He's very predictable. He must have like a GPS course.
So he's Patrick Taylor.
I wouldn't insult Patrick Taylor at this point.
I like Evan Hall.
We'll see what he does. I could kind of see him being their idea of a replacement for A.J. Dillon if they decide to let him go, because it seems like his future may be up in the air after a slightly down 2022 year.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I also wrote that he's like the muscle hamster, like the Doug Martin, but
Doug Martin,
not fast.
Nor
will he break for 200 yards in a game. But
okay.
I mean, whatever. He seems like he could be okay. And he was a pre-draft visit, so that does make me think the Packers may be more interested in him.
Okay.
At 235, I took Marshawn Ford, tight end out of Louisville. Only 6'3", 6'2", so not super big. He was a good target for Malik Cunningham, their quarterback. 49 catches, 550 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's fine. It's better than Tyler Davis, so thank you. 242, I took Tommy DeVito.
Oh, okay.
Tommy DeVito. Okay. Hey.
Illinois quarterback.
I watched a little too much of my cousin Vinny. My apologies. Yeah, Illinois quarterback. He transferred from Syracuse, 24, 6'2". Apparently he wanted to come back for another year. Dude's trying to be Stetson Bennett in like 27 when he gets drafted. Sorry, Tommy, you're coming to us. Doesn't really turn the ball over, but he has very limited technical skills. We need to have some work done on his form. I don't think he's going to be much, but we need another body in the quarterback room, and I didn't know anything about the last 4. And I could make some crappy puns.
I'm right there with you.
So that's what I did.
I like it.
256, though. This is the guy that I'm probably most excited for about out of my 7th round picks. I have Yasir, also known as Yasser Abdullah, edge rusher out of Louisville.
Okay.
He's 6'1", 231, so a little undersized, but 9.5 sacks, 14.5 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions.
I like that.
Also wears 22. Hot
Solid.
numbers, exactly what I wrote. 22 is beautiful.
Hot number. I like that. I like that.
Team captain. This gentleman, I think he might be a pure straight-up replacement for Preston Smith with a little more upside. He dropped into coverage a few times, and I saw him had 2 interceptions off of little corner flat routes, which Preston has not been able to do. We put him back there. He hasn't done shit. Also, his RAS score ranking of 9.47, third highest for a linebacker. Yes, sir.
I like it. I like that.
That's my draft.
That's a good one to end on, man. It's a good one to end on. All right, so I also took a random quarterback in the 7th round.
Hell yeah.
Tyson Bagent.
Is he little? Like
Something
a
like
little nugget?
He's not.
Darn it.
He's a 6'3", 213 senior from Shepherd College. Yeah, wherever that is.
Well, then we have nothing to fear if the Shepherd is here.
So I know very little about this guy. He was in like D2, some conference called the PSAC. Not great. He has good athleticism. He was at the combine. So he has the athleticism we're looking for. He's about in the size range that we look for. We actually are pretty tight when it comes to our like size requirements for quarterbacks. At least it looks that way with the guys they draft. They're all 6'2" to 6'4", over 200 pounds.
Sorry, Luke.
Yeah, I know. They all have good athleticism, not great athleticism. They all kind of fit into the same thing. So this guy fit that mold. So I took him. Has not great mechanics, but we have the man, the myth, the legend, Tom Clements back. So he fixed Aaron Rodgers' mechanics. He fixed Jordan Love's mechanics. Maybe he could fix this guy's mechanics. That's my thought on him. The one I'm excited about in the 7th round is my next one, Elijah Higgins, wide receiver out of Stanford.
Should be a receiver with that name.
He should be. He's a big boy.
Okay.
He's a big boy. I remember watching him at the combine. I was like, damn, this dude's big. He is towering over everyone else. So he is 6'3", 235.
Oh, okay.
Big guy. Big guy. Ran a 4.54. Okay, so that's not a blazing time. But do you know what wide receiver we had that also ran a 4.5?
I'm going to guess Alan Lazard.
Alan Lazard. This is Alan Lazard to me. That's why I picked him. He's a decent run blocker. Given that size, you can teach that up as well. Has kind of a surprising amount of speed and elusiveness with the ball in his hands, especially for a guy that big. Played big slot at Stanford. So, yeah, his NFL comp, by the way, is Jordan Reed. Kind of interesting.
Remind me his name again.
Elijah Higgins. So I kind of like this guy.
I can't do any reptile puns on him, but give me some time and I'll incubate something and get it going. Yep.
His comp's a tight end, but one of the receiving tight ends, and Jordan Reed and Lazard obviously was kind of supposed to become a tight end originally when he went into the league. So this is my Lazard replacement here. I kind of like this guy.
I'm here for it. We could use a little more physicality, and like you said, a lot of these late round picks in general with this wide receiving core is trying to expand what we have. Have different pieces to put on the chessboard. I'm here for it. And
honestly, if you start putting people out there, if Higgins ended up being any good, if Mingo, who we both had, is any good out there, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, that's a really big receiving core that you got out there.
You got some size issues for sure.
You got a lot of size. Plus our tight ends. I mean, you go up against some small corners, they're going to have bad days.
And you know what? End of the day, you know what this Higgins kid isn't? He's not Amari Rodgers, so he's automatically a win.
That's the important part. So next up, I picked Jason Taylor II, no relation. Safety out of Oklahoma State. He is one of the few safeties that is actually 6 feet tall, so good for him, and over 200 pounds. Both of those. Not a hard combo, you would think, but big wins this year.
You can just stop there. It's already a good pick.
Redshirt senior, so he's older than we would prefer, but he's 6 foot, 204, ran a 4.5, which is in most other classes that's not great. In this class, it's top half. It's an unathletic. It's a bad class, man.
They're slow and they're small. A terrible combination.
Correct. He has a good 10-yard split, good broad jump, 43-inch vert. So 6 foot with a 43-inch vert, that's some athleticism there. So even if he doesn't necessarily have the long speed, he's got some explosion to his game, clearly. So I like him. They have him going much earlier in the draft than I took him. But I think overall, he's kind of a thicker guy, which I like. I think maybe he's not quite as tall, but maybe he could play kind of an Amos-type role, I would hope. He's kind of known for big plays, that kind of thing. I mean, he's not the best in coverage, otherwise he still wouldn't be here. But I think overall he's got some traits, and like I said earlier, that's really all you're looking for at this point. So I like that guy. My last guy, I don't really know much about. Tayshawn Manning. He's just a mammoth of a human at guard.
Okay.
Out of Kentucky. 6'3", 327. Long arms. He actually has the arms of closer to a tackle. So maybe there's some versatility there. Maybe there's not. He's very slow, but he's also a giant guard, so who cares? But he's got big frame, long arms, very strong, just kind of a mauler at guard. So when you're at the end of the 7th round, who really cares? These are just priority free agents at this point. You're just throwing darts at a dartboard. So obviously he's got some technique issues, but you wouldn't be a 7th rounder if you didn't. So
feels like a pretty Packers-esque draft pick.
We
someone
always
that can play
take
guard and tackle and just throwing a few at the board. I think I said earlier in the draft that we'll be taking one, if not two, offensive linemen
for sure.
Definitely.
I think I had 2 and you had 2?
I think I only had the one.
Oh, you did have one.
I just had the one. I had the one guy out of Syracuse.
But overall, I think good drafts, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I think that realistically, as to how I think things pan out, I think yours is more realistic in the sense that if I was a betting man, I would say the Packers, if Skoronski or I think it's Paris Johnson, if one of those top 2 tackles is there at 12, that's who they would take. But Nessie is one of the only other few players I think they would take. 13, whatever it is. 12, I don't know. 13. I think Nessie's one of the only few players they would take. Maybe Miles Murphy out of Clemson, the defensive end. But
he's pretty similar to Nessie.
But I think that maybe JSN, but he might be gone or that might be a reach in their book. But I think the players that they would take at 13 is pretty limited.
I agree. I completely agree because I think it's a pretty good cornerback class, for instance, at the top. But I don't see us taking one at 13. I mean, you got Christian Gonzalez and Devon Witherspoon and Deontay Banks, and I don't think even if one of them falls, well, Deontay Banks wouldn't fall, but if Christian Gonzalez falls, right, he's one of the best players in the draft, but are we really going to use that capital on a corner? Probably not.
And what I'm going to say if we take a corner is that then you have to move Rasul to safety because there's no point. Like, I'm okay with drafting a surplus to an extent, but if you're going to be drafting another corner and he's going to be CB4, CB5, because we're going to be putting Nixon more in the slot, like the dude's not going to play unless we're deciding Eric Stokes is completely a bust, which would be a little inappropriate this soon, even as someone who wasn't the biggest fan of him. So I think corner feels a little inappropriate unless you move Rasul.
I agree completely. So yeah, you're not going to take Bijan at 13 or Jahmyr Gibbs.
No, we're not taking a running back in the first. I mean, maybe if we trade back to 32, maybe, but maybe. I really doubt it. I mean, people have sort of tried to flirt the idea because you don't know about both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon's contract future. I think that we are too obsessed with the trenches.
And I think we take one at some point in this draft. I tried, and the guy I liked just wasn't there. I really like the guy from Pitt, Israel something or another. Good size, incredible speed type of thing. So that's who I was trying to target in the mid rounds. But
I got my bowling ball.
That's true. You got your bowling ball. I really wanted that guy because I think he could be really, really good. But yeah, we're not going to take one in the first. It's not going to happen. We're not going to take a defensive tackle. It's not going to happen.
Honestly,
I don't even think we take Jalen Carter.
In one of those mocks, I looked and it was either the first or second round, and I was like, I wouldn't, but the Packers might.
I don't think we would.
I don't think we should. I mean, maybe if you're going to do what I kind of talked about with Nessie and you put him at like the 3 technique. So you put him
or the 5,
either, where Lowry was or where Reed was, where they're technically more, you call it a defensive end, but we just have, 3 or 4 big bodies on the line of scrimmage. Because then you can start, right? If you're doing traditional defensive tackle, you are not starting on this team. No, you're not going to be starting over Kenny Clark or Devontae White from what we saw from him. There's no way in hell. So
no, you'd have to take the other side.
In this early round, like 1 and 2 especially, but also 3, unless you're taking, Jordan Love quarterback, this should be somebody who should be starting or having significant snaps by the halfway point through the season.
Yeah, and you're not going to take like an off-ball linebacker either, even though Jack Campbell would be awesome.
Because he's from Iowa. That's right. Because Hawkeyes rule all.
Your Bills might take him, though, to replace Tremaine
They
Edmonds.
might. They honestly...
He's the perfect replacement.
They really need to. And he would be their missing piece.
He would be. But so there's a bunch of positions that we're just not going to take, right? I don't think we're going to take tight end at 13 either. I don't see it.
If those
not
linemen,
a good enough value.
Yeah, if those linemen and edge rushers are gone, the ones that we just talked about, we trade back almost for sure. Now, there's a small chance we can get aggressive. And if we fall in love with someone like Skoronski, I could see us taking that first and some ammo from the back end and moving up a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see. But yeah, if it's not in that, if it's not in the box, 13, we're not taking it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But the draft is in 2 days.
So we'll find
You guys
out.
aren't going to have to wait another 3 months before our next episode, guys. We're going to be back. You free Tuesday?
I'm free Tuesday.
You bet your ass you are, because we're going to be right back here next Tuesday.
Breaking down the draft, man.
Let's hope
Which
that
is what we love to do more than anything. Are we going to get
it really is.
another poem?
Man, I thought some of my things today were pretty good.
I don't want to put any pressure on you, but
I thought
it depends.
I thought I delivered pretty well today.
I think you did. I think you did.
And I thought of most of those on the way over.
I'm
Honestly,
impressed.
I think the Romeo one, I was at home when that kind of came to me. But
That was pretty good.
I mean, I'll do what I can, but it's
Okay.
also it's up to the Packers. You know,
They
they
got to pick
draft
somebody to inspire you.
Yeah, I also do this at work, just to be clear. Like when I see patients' names that are coming out, I'll look at my coworker and be like, "Yo, look, I don't want them." It'll be something stupid, like, "Oh, this guy probably talks a lot," you know, if his name's like Babbler, you know what I mean? Like it's stupid stuff like that.
I got you.
But yeah,
We'll
so
see. Hopefully, we got some right.
we got one last year between the two of us.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's such a cluster F. I mean, like, you just don't know what's going to happen. I think that we'll do at least pretty good with drafting needs comparatively as the Packers do.
Yeah, like positions.
And then they'll
else.
draft like a punter in the second round. We'll be like, what? Or kicker, I guess. Sorry, Silver Fox.
R.I.P.
All right. But until next time, folks, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.